People talk about change like it's magic. One day I'll be successful. One day I'll be healthy. One day I'll be happy. But here's the truth. Nothing changes until you get serious. See, it's easy to wish for change. It's easy to talk about it. It's even easy to make a plan for it. But life doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to decisions. And not just any decision, a decision you're willing to back up with action, even on the days when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unpopular. First comes clarity. You've got to get painfully clear about what you want and why you want it. A vague target never gets hit. If you want a better career, define better. If you want better health, decide what better looks like. If you can't describe it in detail, don't be surprised when you don't get it. Second, excuses. Oh, they feel good, don't they? Excuses let us feel smart while staying stuck. But the moment you drop the excuses and take ownership, real ownership, you'll feel something new: control. And control is where change begins. Third, discipline. Motivation is fun. It makes you feel ready. But here's the bad news: motivation leaks. It wears off. Discipline is the glue that holds your progress together when your feelings try to quit on you. And let's not forget the power of environment. You can't expect growth while surrounding yourself with people, places, and habits that pull you backward. You become like the atmosphere you live in. Change the environment, and you'll find your effort multiplying without extra strain. Finally, seriousness shows in the small things. Not in the big leaps you tell everyone about, but in the small, daily steps no one sees. Tiny actions, repeated, compound into results so big people will call them overnight success. So here's the challenge. Decide today what serious means for you. Decide what you'll do daily, no matter what mood you're in, no matter how hard it feels, and stick to it. Because until you get serious, nothing changes. Clarity is the first spark of transformation, and without it, all the motivation, resources, and opportunities in the world won't get you far. Imagine walking into a vast forest with no map, no compass, and no destination in mind. You could wander for days, even years, and end up right back where you started. That's what life feels like without clarity. You're moving. You're doing things, you're busy, but you're not making meaningful progress. Until you can clearly define where you want to go and what you want to achieve, you're essentially walking in circles. The problem most people face is not a lack of ambition. It's the lack of a clear target. They want success, but success is too vague. Success to one person might mean owning a business. To another, it might mean having more time with family. To another, it might mean retiring early. If you can't articulate what you're chasing in vivid, precise terms, then every opportunity looks equally important, and that's dangerous. When everything seems equally important, you scatter your energy, and scattered energy produces scattered results. Clarity forces you to make decisions. It demands that you choose, and choosing means you're willing to close certain doors so others can open. Many people avoid clarity because clarity removes the comfort of maybe. When you get specific, when you say, I want to double my income in the next 12 months, or I want to run a marathon before I turn 40, you immediately face the reality that some things in your current lifestyle won't support that goal. You can't keep the same habits, the same routines, the same level of effort, and expect a wildly different outcome. One of the best ways to create clarity is to reverse engineer it. Start with the end in mind. If you woke up tomorrow and your ideal life was already here, what would it look like? Where would you live? What would your day look like from the moment you opened your eyes? What kind of work would you do? Who would you spend time with? Don't just think in generalities. Paint the picture so vividly that someone else could see it in their mind if you described it to them. The more detail you add, the more your brain starts to lock onto that picture as something real, something possible, something worth pursuing. And here's the interesting thing about clarity. Once you have it, your decisions get easier. You start to naturally say no to things that don't fit your vision. You stop chasing every shiny opportunity because you know where you're going. Opportunities that once looked exciting now look like distractions if they don't align with the picture you've created. This is one of the hidden powers of clarity. It filters your world, so you don't waste energy on paths that won't take you where you want to go. But clarity isn't just about the destination, it's also about the reasons behind it. The why matters just as much as the what. You might want to be debt-free, but is it because you want peace of mind or because you want the freedom to take bigger risks? You might want to get fit, but is it because you want more confidence or because you want to be around to play with your grandchildren? When your reasons are powerful enough, they fuel your persistence when the work gets difficult. Without clarity, you live reactively, responding to whatever happens, drifting with the current. With clarity, you live proactively, steering the ship where you want it to go. And until you decide with precision what that, where, is, life will keep handing you the same patterns, the same results, and the same frustrations. The moment you get clear, life starts shifting. Not because it suddenly becomes easier, but because you finally have a target worth aiming at. And aiming at something real changes the way you move. Clarity doesn't guarantee the journey will be smooth, but it guarantees you'll be moving in the right direction, and that alone changes everything. Decision is the real turning point, the invisible line that separates wishing from doing. Most people think change happens slowly, in small steps, but the truth is, change begins in a single moment, the moment you finally decide. That moment is not about partial commitment or trying it out to see how it feels. It's about crossing a point of no return where you remove every exit door, every safety net, and every maybe from your plan. Until that happens, you're just entertaining the idea of change, not living it. A real decision is different from a preference. Preferences are things you'd like to have if it's convenient, like saying, I'd like to lose a few pounds, or I'd like to start my own business someday. Decisions are absolute. They sound more like, I will lose 20 pounds before the year ends, or I'm starting my business this quarter, and I will figure out the rest along the way. Notice the difference. A preference waits for the right time. A decision creates the time. The reason a firm decision changes everything is because it activates both your focus and your resourcefulness. Before you decide, your mind drifts between options, weighing pros and cons endlessly. After you decide, your brain starts working differently. It searches for solutions instead of alternatives. It's like flipping a switch from thinking about it to making it happen. When the decision is absolute, hesitation loses its power over you. But here's the catch. Most people never truly decide because decision requires risk. It forces you to confront the possibility of failure. That's why so many people prefer the comfort of indecision. It lets them stay safe from disappointment while still feeling like they're working on it. The problem is, indecision is the perfect recipe for staying exactly where you are. Nothing changes because nothing is committed. A decision also demands action, immediately. If you've ever truly decided on something, you probably noticed that you couldn't wait to take the first step. The action might have been small, but it was decisive. It was proof to yourself that you meant business. You can't claim you've decided and then do nothing. If you decide to get in shape, you clean the junk food out of your kitchen that day. If you decide to start a business, you register the name, make the call, or build the first draft. Without action, a decision is just a thought wearing a nice suit. There's also the matter of consistency. A decision is not made once, it's remade daily. You might think you decided to change your life, but if you have to keep convincing yourself every morning, you didn't decide, you only considered. Real decisions don't need to be renegotiated every day. They're locked in, and your daily actions flow naturally from that lock. Think about people who have undergone major transformations, losing hundreds of pounds, turning their finances around, overcoming addictions. Ask them when the change began, and they'll often tell you the exact day, sometimes the exact hour they decided. Not the day they started seeing results, but the day they decided there was no going back. That's the power of a true decision. It compresses your timeline, forcing you to begin now, not someday. The beauty of a decision is that it makes your path clearer. Once you decide, you stop asking, should I? And start asking, how will I? You stop checking the temperature of your emotions before acting. Because the decision is already made regardless of how you feel. You start acting in alignment with the future you chose, instead of the past you're leaving behind. And that's why decision is the real turning point. It's the spark that lights the fire, the bridge you cross and burn so you can't go back. Without it, you're just circling the runway, hoping for perfect weather. With it, you take off, whether or not the skies are clear. Because once you decide life moves with you, obstacles start revealing solutions, and progress stops being a hope and starts becoming a fact. Excuses are comfortable. They give us a soft place to land when we fall short, a way to protect our ego from the sting of failure. They sound reasonable, sometimes even logical, but the truth is, excuses are progress killers. As long as you have an excuse, you have a reason to stay exactly where you are. You can't move forward and hold on to an excuse at the same time. It's like trying to drive with the parking brake on. You might still inch forward, but the resistance will wear you out long before you get anywhere meaningful. Most people don't realize how skilled they are at making excuses. They've practiced it for years, sometimes decades. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I don't know where to start. It's not the right season for me. They might even dress these excuses up as concerns, obligations, or personal limitations, but at the root, they're still the same thing: reasons to delay action. And here's the danger. Excuses feel safe, but they quietly train you to accept less than you're capable of. Excuses work like this: they shift responsibility away from you and onto something else. If the reason for your lack of progress is always external, your boss, the economy, your upbringing, the weather, then you never have to face the uncomfortable truth that you're the one in control of your own change. That might sound harsh, but it's liberating once you understand it. Because if you're the problem, you're also the solution. You can't change the weather, but you can change your response. You can't change your past, but you can change what you do next. When you strip away excuses, you're left with nothing but the raw reality of your choices and actions. That's why getting rid of excuses is uncomfortable. It removes your shield. But that discomfort is a sign you're stepping into real responsibility. And responsibility is the soil where change grows. No one ever transformed their life while still defending the reasons they couldn't. Now, some people argue, but my excuse is valid. And they might be right. Life is full of real challenges: financial hardship, health issues, family obligations. But here's the key difference. A reason explains the challenge. An excuse justifies staying stuck because of it. You can acknowledge a challenge without letting it become your permanent limitation. In fact, history is full of people who had every legitimate reason to quit and still pushed forward, because they refused to let the reason become the ruler of their life. Eliminating excuses starts with catching yourself in the act. The next time you say, "I can't because," stop and ask, is this really true? Or is it just comfortable? Sometimes the truth is you could. You just don't want to face the discomfort it would require. That's when you have to decide if the comfort of your excuse is worth the cost of your potential. The moment you drop your excuses, your perspective changes. Instead of asking, "Why can't I?" you start asking, "How can I?" You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with the conditions you have. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start acting like the architect of your future. And that shift, taking full ownership, is often the single biggest leap a person can make toward their goals. Excuses may protect you in the short term, but they imprison you in the long term. They keep you in the same patterns, the same problems, the same life you keep saying you want to change. The truth is, you can't rewrite your story until you put down the pen of excuses. Every time you defend an excuse, you reinforce the walls of the cage you're in. Every time you drop one, you knock down part of the wall. If you want things to change, the first step is to stop protecting the very thing that's keeping you the same. That means no more when I have more time, or when things settle down. Life will always be busy. It will always be imperfect. And if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll be waiting forever. The time to act is not when it's easy, it's when it matters. And it matters right now. Motivation is exciting. It's that surge of energy you feel after hearing a great speech, reading an inspiring book, or watching a powerful video. In those moments, you feel unstoppable, like you could climb mountains or run through walls. But motivation is a visitor. It shows up when it wants to, stays for a short time, and then leaves without notice. Discipline, on the other hand, is a permanent resident. It doesn't depend on how you feel, it depends on what you've decided. And that's why discipline will take you places motivation can't. When you rely solely on motivation, your progress becomes unpredictable. Some days you feel like tackling the world, and other days you can't even get started. You wait for that spark to return, hoping it will give you the push you need. But here's the hard truth. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll never reach your full potential. The people who achieve lasting results aren't the ones who feel motivated every day. They're the ones who show up every day, regardless of how they feel. Discipline is the quiet, steady force that bridges the gap between desire and achievement. It's not glamorous, and it's not always fun. In fact, sometimes discipline feels boring. Waking up early to work on your goals, sticking to a budget, showing up for workouts when you'd rather stay in bed. These aren't thrilling moments, but these are the bricks that build success. Motivation might lay the first brick, but discipline lays the rest until the building is complete. One reason discipline beats motivation is that discipline is built on habit. When you form habits, you remove the daily decision of, do I feel like doing this today? You simply do it because it's part of who you are now. This is where discipline becomes freedom. Ironically, the more disciplined you are, the freer you become. You're free from the stress of inconsistency. You're free from the constant emotional battle of whether or not you'll take action. You're free from the guilt that comes from knowing you could have done more but didn't. Discipline also creates trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you prove to yourself that your word means something. That self-trust compounds over time, and before long, you don't just believe you can follow through, you know you will. And when you know you will, your confidence skyrockets. Now, developing discipline is not about becoming rigid or punishing yourself. It's about aligning your actions with your priorities, even when it's inconvenient. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with small, non-negotiable commitments. Things so small you can't reasonably fail. Maybe it's writing for 10 minutes a day, doing 5 push-ups in the morning, or reading 2 pages of a book each night. Small disciplines, repeated daily, create momentum. And momentum is easier to maintain than motivation. Another key to building discipline is removing unnecessary temptations. You can't expect yourself to stick to a budget if you keep your favorite shopping app on your phone. You can't expect yourself to eat clean if your pantry is filled with junk food. Discipline thrives when you design your environment to support it. Make the right choice the easy choice, and the wrong choice the hard one. The truth is, motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going when motivation has gone home for the night. It's discipline that gets the runner out of bed at 5 a.m. It's discipline that keeps the business owner making calls after a dozen rejections. It's discipline that keeps the student studying when Netflix is calling. Without it, you'll keep starting over again and again every time your motivation fades. If you want lasting change, stop chasing the high of motivation and start building the foundation of discipline. It won't feel as exciting in the moment, but it will feel far more rewarding in the end. Because discipline doesn't just create results. It creates the person you need to become to keep those results. And that's a change worth making. Your environment is not just where you live. It's the invisible force shaping your thoughts, habits, and actions every single day. Most people underestimate just how much their surroundings influence their behavior. They think change is all about willpower, But willpower is fragile when it's constantly fighting against an unsupportive environment. If you're trying to grow in a place that pulls you backward, you're fighting an uphill battle. You can't plant roses in a swamp and expect a garden. The people you spend time with are a big part of your environment. They influence your energy, your mindset, and even your expectations of what's possible. Spend enough time with people who complain all day, and before you know it, you'll be complaining too. Surround yourself with people who set goals and work hard, and suddenly that becomes normal. Human beings naturally adapt to the energy and standards of the group they're in. That's why athletes train together and why businesses create high-performance cultures. Because we rise or fall to the level of our environment. But environment isn't just people. It's also the physical and mental spaces you operate in. Look around your home, your workspace, your digital world. Are they cluttered or organized? Distracting or focused? The space you live in can either energize you or drain you. If your desk is covered in distractions, it's going to be harder to focus. If your phone is filled with social media notifications, it's going to be harder to stay present. Small tweaks in your environment can have a big impact on your behavior without you even realizing it. Your environment also sends silent messages about what's normal. If everyone around you treats debt like a way of life, you'll be more likely to accept it. If everyone around you eats fast food for lunch, you'll start to think that's just the way it is. But if you change your environment, join a group of people committed to financial freedom, surround yourself with friends who care about health, suddenly, a higher standard becomes the new normal. You stop fighting to be different and start adapting to better habits without as much resistance. Designing an environment that supports your goals doesn't always mean moving to a new city or cutting people out of your life overnight. Sometimes it's about small but intentional changes. If you want to read more, put books where you can see them. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with good food and keep the junk out of sight. If you want to save money, set up automatic transfers so saving happens without effort. Your environment should make the right choice the easy choice, and the wrong choice the hard one. It's also worth protecting your mental environment, the information and ideas you let in. If you fill your mind with negative news, toxic conversations, and constant comparison, your mindset will reflect that. But if you feed your mind with inspiring content, problem-solving conversations, and uplifting stories, your outlook changes. Your thoughts are influenced by what you expose them to, and your thoughts shape your actions. The truth is, it's incredibly hard to outgrow an environment that's working against you. You can have all the discipline in the world, but if you're swimming against the current every day, progress will be slow and exhausting. Change the current, change your environment, and suddenly, it feels like life is helping you instead of holding you back. If you want to change your life, don't just focus on what you do. Focus on where you do it, who you do it with, and what influences you allow in. Because environment isn't just the background of your story. It's the stage on which your whole life plays out. And if the stage is set for success, your performance will naturally rise to match it. Big changes are rarely the result of one massive leap. They're almost always the product of small, consistent steps, done quietly, without fanfare day after day. It's tempting to believe that transformation happens in a flash, in one dramatic moment. But in reality, change is more like compounding interest. Slow at first, almost invisible, then unstoppable over time. The people who achieve lasting success understand this. They don't rely on huge bursts of effort. They rely on steady, deliberate action that builds momentum. The challenge is that small steps often feel insignificant in the moment. Going for a short walk doesn't seem like it will transform your health. Saving a few dollars doesn't feel like it will create financial freedom. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't feel like it will change your life. That's why so many people quit. They underestimate the power of what they can do consistently and overestimate the power of what they can do occasionally. The truth is, occasional intensity gets attention, but consistent effort gets results. Here's why small steps work so well. They're sustainable. You don't have to psych yourself up to do them. You don't have to wait for the perfect conditions. You don't need a huge burst of willpower. You just need to show up. And because they're manageable, you can keep going even when life gets busy, stressful, or unpredictable. Over time, those small actions start to stack up in ways you couldn't predict. Small steps also build identity. Every time you follow through, even in a small way, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. If you do one push-up, you've acted like a healthy person today. If you write one paragraph, you acted like a writer today. And the more votes you cast, the stronger that identity becomes. Eventually, the habit isn't just something you do, it's part of who you are. That's when change becomes permanent. The compounding effect is where the magic really happens. Think about a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny and slow, but as it rolls, it gathers more snow, gains more weight, and moves faster. Your efforts work the same way. At first, it's hard to see the payoff. You're putting in the work, but the results are invisible. This is where most people give up. But if you keep going, if you keep stacking those small steps, suddenly you hit a tipping point where progress accelerates. That's when people start calling you an overnight success, not realizing you've been quietly building that success for months or years. There's also a psychological advantage to starting small. It removes the mental resistance that stops people from starting at all. If you tell yourself you need to run 5 miles, you might procrastinate all day. But if you tell yourself you just need to put on your shoes and run for 5 minutes, you're far more likely to get moving. And often, once you start, you end up doing more than you planned. Small steps create momentum, and momentum often leads to bigger action naturally. It's important to remember that consistency is more important than perfection. You will miss a day. You will have setbacks. But the beauty of small steps is that they're easy to pick back up. You don't need to rebuild your life to restart. You just need to take the next step. Over time, the days you follow through will far outnumber the days you don't, and the results will take care of themselves. The key is patience. You won't see dramatic change right away, but you will feel a shift, first in your habits, then in your confidence, and finally in your results. And when the results come, they'll feel almost inevitable because you've been building them quietly all along. That's the power of compounding action. It turns the smallest beginnings into the biggest transformations. If you commit to small steps, done consistently, you'll look back months or years from now and be amazed at how far you've come. Not because you took one giant leap, but because you kept taking the next small step. That's how real change happens.